All right, good evening, everyone. It is September 8th. The time is 2021. The time is 5:33 p.m. I'm calling to order the Public Safety Events and Quality of Life Committee meeting. And the chair, Mike Stefano. Hopefully joined by Bill Scott at some point. That's our call to order. Just a reminder, if you're going to speak tonight, come up to the mic, say your name and address for the record. On to item number 2, which is comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items that are not on the agenda. I see none. So we move on to item number 3, which is our fire department report by our fire chief. Helena I thought I saw somebody run out the door. So, oh, they had a fire. So, okay. Should we skip this or just look at it? Just take a look at it. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Yeah. Okay, so we have our report number of incidents for the month of August are up there. I'm not going to read through it. A couple significant incidents there. There's a breakdown of the calls. There's our major incidents for 2021. $45.7%, yeah. I'm surprised. I'm always surprised by that. I think Mr. Scott usually asks about that. What day was it? Sunday or Monday? Labor Day or Sunday? I can't remember. There was so many alarms, and there was like trucks going by our house, and then they were coming right back. So I'm wondering how often that's what's happening there. It seems like such a waste of resources. But anybody have questions about this report or anything for the record for the fire department? I'm sure they had their hands busy last week at the storm. I know there was tons of water rescue, so especially. But okay, if there's no questions, we'll move on. Okay, so we'll move on to item number 4, police department report. Chief Moorhead.
Good evening, Jim Moorhead, Chief of Police. For the month of August, the police department responded to 3,181 calls for service, of which about 2,400 of those were in the borough. Go to the next page, please. The calls were spread out pretty equitably throughout the borough. I expect that to change this month. Sorry, sir. But yeah, we do expect a spike in the southeast. While we're on that topic, our officers have been very diligent. They've been out enforcing zero tolerance, having conversations. Our resource unit attended the freshman orientations at the university to make sure that we got some of the messaging out ahead of time with the students. So we were invited to attend. And that was, for the students that attended, I thought that was mandatory. Back in my day, it was mandatory, but apparently not so anymore. So attendance was kind of low, which was disappointing. We still were able to extend our messaging. Skip that slide and go to calls for service. Nothing remarkable for the month of August. Our Part 1 and Part 2 crime is in line with this time of year. To go to the next page, we have a slight spike in assaults, thefts. Nothing to indicate the reasoning why on that. It was just kind of a busy summer, mainly uptown. I'll point out 2 cases of interest. One was the jewelry store burglary in the month of August that happened after hours. Our patrol division did a nice job responding to that, and because of that and the diligent work by the detective unit, arrest warrants are out for both individuals responsible for that burglary. Then the other one is we had a shots fired call where shots were exchanged up in the center of town. You can call back to July. We had one on Market Street. This one was on Gay Street. It's from a dispute that started inside of Kildare's. And as a result of that investigative work, we have arrest warrants out for that too. So 2 serious crimes, both solved, and have some arrests pending on that. Last page, the Part 2 crime, nothing significant as well. It's typical August. We get a little quiet before the spike, but now the return is here. Students are back. We're glad to see them back. We're certainly making sure that our message gets out. Just a brief mention about September. I really have to applaud Good Fellowship Ambulance, Westchester Fire Department, and the police department for the storm response and everything they did. It was remarkable. I think actually we were here that night, the night of the storm. We got stuck in this room, if you remember. And our officers, the paramedics, EMTs, and firefighters were out in full force. Hearing some of the stories and responses that they attended to was nothing short of remarkable, that we didn't have any injuries in fleets. So it was a good day for emergency services in the Westchester area. Questions if you have them. Yes, sir. The patrol squad and Public Works worked together. They had barricades dropped at all the usual hot spots where we're going to see expected flooding, and they did not disappoint. We were able to get the barricades up quickly, but due to the call volume, cannot man staff those areas around the clock, so we have to put the barricades up and rely on them. Sometimes people make poor choices and go around them, and certainly saw that happen. Yes. Yeah, there were numerous rescues. Firemen and waiters or in rescue boats had to go and get stranded individuals that drove into floodwater. The fire department, yes. Yeah, multiple rescues. The fire department. They don't let police officers in boats. That's bad. Yeah. That's true. Pittsburgh and yeah, Baltimore. Well, yeah, I mean, we pretty fortunate in this event considering the circumstances. If you look at Downingtown Borough, Modena, Coatesville City, they all suffered tremendous loss. Luckily, not many lives, but there was some loss of life, and then obviously a lot of property and damage. Did we send? Not that evening. We were two hands on deck here. But the fire department and yeah, Public Works did assist in equipment in Modena Borough, is my understanding. Else?
Ms. Dorsey, do you have any? Thanks for sitting in, by the way.
No worries. I just wanted to give a shout out to officers. I was in the Bradford Plaza on Sunday. A young lady had OD'd, and we dialed 911, and 4 of your officers showed up. They were very compassionate, and the person who was with her obviously had some concerns, right, about incriminating himself or her, and they were very, very considerate. So I just wanted to say thank you. Make sure you tell them what a good job they did.
Thank you, and I'll make sure that reaches them. Thank you.
And I just have a comment. I talked to the chief about this last week. I had a personal incident that the police and the Good Fellowship both responded to, which I'm so grateful for. My daughter, we gave her some peanut butter first time, did not go well, and we are no strangers to egg well, my son has an egg allergy, so we're no strangers to food allergies. And it turns out my daughter has an allergy. So she blew up. My wife can't believe it, did it herself, gave my daughter an EpiPen. And police officers were there in like no time. Uh, and then the good fellowship right afterwards. And they were just, she couldn't say enough. I wasn't there, unfortunately. I had to come later, but I couldn't say enough good things about the response and the way they handled the situation to help out my family. It was my wife just had a funny thing. There was one of the new hires was there and the ambulance was leaving and she had to go in the ambulance with my daughter and she had to use the bathroom. So she literally like handed my 8-month-old daughter to the new hire, like, here, hold my baby, and then ran in the bathroom. Just funny, but thank you so much for that. So, and I would say the same thing to Good Fellowship when they come up. Scary stuff, but handled amazingly, and luckily my daughter's fine. So, besides having a peanut allergy, thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Anybody have anything else for the police department? Mr. Hudson.
Kyle Hudson, 524 West Marshall Street. I just want to say thank you, all the great work that all the emergency personnel did during the storms. It was incredible. But actually, I have a question that's more for the committee. What steps are we taking to mitigate the flooding in town? Like, what active steps right now is borough government taking to make sure this doesn't happen next time? Mr. Scott? The flooding. Like, what are you doing to stop the flooding?
I'm not sure that's a public safety.
I think it very much falls under public safety.
I appreciate that. What do you think, Mr. Brown? I'm not sure that's a public safety one.
Well, what measures are in place to prevent the flooding, right? We just saw historic flooding in Westchester. We just heard all the repercussions of what happened. So I'm asking our government what we're doing to make sure that that doesn't happen. Like, is there any negotiation? Are we talking to East Bradford about?
Let me answer your question
Okay.
instead of rambling on. What the borough is doing is we have a stream protection fee.
Okay.
We've been planning for 4 years to reduce the amount of flooding. We're never going to eliminate it.
I get it.
Okay.
But
So-
what, like, is there any projects? Like, are
Yeah,
there
we
any?
just did $1 million project in Taylor Run, or Plum Run, excuse me.
Okay, but that was before the flooding, right? So
That's right.
we're seeing the results of after that project.
Not seeing any results. But the hurricane we had the other day, I don't care what we do, you're not gonna stop flooding a storm like that.
Right, but it floods on Montgomery Avenue when it rains a little bit. So, like, what are we doing about that?
Well, if you look in the budget, you'll see about $1 million a year going towards projects.
Okay.
That's what we're doing.
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, well, most of the floodings, the head wall for Goose Creek starts behind Element Fitness in West Goshen. They co-sign every application we sign. Now, we're, I mean, there's a million other projects and priority list. So all you have to do is you have to keep on banging on the door. That's all.
Anybody else? Okay, we're going to move on to item number 5, which is the Good Fellowship. Hi, Kim.
Hello, Kim Holman. I'm the Executive Director of Good Fellowship. I apologize for everybody leaving. The house fire has 2 patients, so the chief had to go up for that. Just to kind of go real low highlights on the call volume for last month. This is the busiest August we've ever seen. We have 187 calls for the month of August, 570 total, and that's just for the borough. We are seeing Westchester University volume returning. Chief Moorhead out. They love to get out when it's nice. And we are seeing an increase in drug and alcohol components on the calls. We're up to 20% on that for alcohol and drug suspicion on a call. So that's kind of the highlights on the actual call volume. Just like Chief and some of the things that you guys have spoke of, we are working hard on the flood issues that happened last week. We just put out a post today about our substation in East Bradford. We post something out there 24 hours a day. Actually, September 1st was supposed to be the first day of the ambulance being out there 24 hours a day. And we pulled back about 6 hours into that, realizing that's a low-lying flood area. It's right across from the Pico substation, 322 and scalp level area. And we ended up with about 4 feet of water inside the building. So all of the contents were lost there. And I personally ran on the ambulance that night. I've been a member of Good Fellowship since 1994. So I've been through a lot of storms, been through a lot of stuff with these guys behind me. And I can tell you Wednesday night, I was actually scared, probably first time in my career. I cannot stress how crazy and heroic and the things that we do. I mean, it sounds like I'm being self-serving, but I'm really talking about these guys behind me, because I just pull the ambulance up and I stand on the edge of the water and I just go, can you not go in? Could you just be careful? I mean, it's kind of my role. But these guys were getting in boats and going in raging water. We lost a trooper. He was actually submerged, his car in a flash flood. His car got submerged out in East Bradford area. And we actually couldn't find him for about 30 minutes. That was right at 8:42. And we actually went from Allerton to Bridge trying to find him. When he came across the bridge, he was completely submerged. And to see a police officer, especially a state trooper, who pretty stoic gentleman, walk across was heartbreaking. Boat 53, who was out of Fame, they responded not only to our area, but they were also in Tredyffrin. They, in that rescue of the trooper, actually lost the motor of their boat, and they were swept downstream quite a bit. The only thing that saved them was the fast actions of their assistant chief, Mark Scanlon, and he actually hugged a tree to keep them there. They troubleshoot that, they fixed the motor, and they were back in play and rescued the trooper. I could go on about a bunch of different stories. On 322, one of the Westchester police officers, I didn't get to see him because it was dark and it was raining. There were people in cars, and we rescued them, brought them up to the police officer. We carried off onto our next call, but the police officer stands there with that person and figures out how the hell they're going to get home. Because it's not like a car accident. Their friend can't come pick them up. They can't do anything. And actually, at that call, we got trapped. We were trapped in between 322 scalp level and 322 in the bypass. So to tell you it was chaotic and crazy and the worst night of storm stuff I've ever seen is true, but there were proactive steps taken before that storm came. Montgomery Avenue was closed down very early in the day. I think that's what minimized that area a lot. There was notifications about routes different for the hospital. We are very well aware of that intersection. We joke around about it all the time. And literally it's one more street up and we turn right here. So it's an issue, as Kyle mentions, it's something we do need to fix. But the historic flooding that we saw, I think we all have to work together to fix that. But it's more important that the emergency services that you guys manage and that you guys put resources into are exceptional. And they are top notch and probably the best in the county. And I know I'm jaded, or biased, but I truly, you cannot say enough about what they did Wednesday night. Questions? Yeah, so actually, go ahead. So in Downingtown, the most closest was in Downingtown. A gentleman was coming down 322 into Downingtown. They lived up in Applecross. It's a pretty big development up in 322. And his wife was at the Wawa, right there at Wallace. And he was swept off the road right by Cardelli Lane, where the Little League field is. And he was swept down into the river. And actually, the resource from 51, which is it's an Argo, so it's kind of like a vehicle, but a boat thing. They're actually the ones that went out and retrieved him. So that's the closest one in the area. So yeah, and there was lots of close calls. I mean, more than I would like to say there was. One of our director of education, her name's Tammy Johnson, her husband was in Malvern, and he was actually swept into the river and pulled under a roadway through a drain. And he actually just got released today from Paoli, and he had another firefighter with him. There was a police officer, western part of the township. I think it's like West Brandywine. He actually went in the water to save somebody. The road had sunk, and he actually got in up to his hip and was stuck in the roadway. It took a bulldozer coming out to get him. He has a non-surgical hip fracture. We're trying to rescue those people. So, I mean, it's unsung stories that we're not hearing because there's just so much devastation, and you don't want to take away from people that have lost everything in their homes, and some family members are gone. But there's stories that you guys need to hear, I think, as public safety, because what they do, it's expected, right? But they don't have to, but they do. And I think it's really important. So yes, on deaths, I have been in touch. You talked about Sappy and Heron and Comita. Their names were mentioned earlier. I've been in contact with all of their offices. Houlihan is actually pleading out to our area to actually support pushing federal declaration for us. Right now, it's just a state declaration. So to hopefully get more federal funds, she's actually asking everyone. She has a Chester and a Velco site where she's trying to get you to upload the damages that happened to your area, because that'll bolster and help her make a plan to try and get us federal help. In Downingtown, that's the closest one. There were Chester County, I defer. I just know of the one in Downingtown, for sure. For what I saw, we were extremely lucky.
Well, thank you. I mean, just hearing those stories there was incredibly moving, and can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. Yeah.
We love coming to your house too.
Yeah, yeah.
always
Thank you,
take care
and
of
thank
you.
you for that, person. Anybody have anything for the Good Fellowship? All right. We're going to move on to number 6, which is discussing the ordinance for the Community Campus Committee. Mayor Norley.
Thank you. We'll just try to buzz through this and tell me when you want to stop here. But this is the draft ordinance for the Community Campus Committee, now proposed to be a formal committee of council instead of a informal coalition. We've worked. There's been a lot of back and forth between our administration and solicitor and the university. So this draft is endorsed by the university. So essentially, this would create the committee. And section 2 there gives the mission. Went through some of this last meeting, but the purpose of the Community Campus Committee is to promote an increased communication and collaboration between Borough of Westchester, community leaders and residents of Westchester University, officials and students on issues that affect health, safety, quality of life for the youth and community. Two there goes through several responsibilities of the committee, including regular meetings. There'll be monthly meetings to discuss all sorts of various issues, including university activities, events, policies, various affairs. Another charge is to promote and encourage cooperation and planning for university events that will have an impact on borough residents, such as homecoming, graduation, move-in, etc. Also to develop and foster relationships and liaise with leaders and communities of the borough and the university, and identify issues of mutual concern to the borough and university while maintaining open and transparent communications with all relevant parties, both the borough and the university, and initiate solutions for issues or problems that impact the quality of life for borough residents, and also to provide reports to Borough Council on activities, accomplishments, recommendations, etc., by either a written submission or verbal submission to the appropriate. As for membership, recommendation, you'll see there's the way to think about this is like two organizations coming together. Successful in the past, but it's going to sound like a lot of people. So 10 folks from the borough members, 10 folks from the university members, and a co-chair system of governance. The membership on the borough side, Westchester Mayor, representative from the Westchester Police Department as selected by the mayor, a member of Borough Council's Public Safety for this committee. Chair would be good. Borough resident from the 2nd and 4th wards, appointed by Borough Council. 2 at-large borough residents appointed by council. Member of the Westchester Apartment Housing Association or a property owner that hopefully can communicate to that constituent group, own student rentals, talk about leases and keeping properties clean, all those sorts of things. A member of the Westchester Restaurant Association or alternatively a business owner in the borough who runs an establishment with liquor license. Same thing, somebody that communicate to the greater membership of that constituent group. And the director of Department of Building, Housing, and Code Enforcement. That would conclude the, quote unquote, borough members. The other side of the equation are the university members, 10 as well. They'll be represented by at least the following departments: student affairs, civic engagement and social impact, external relations, fraternity and sorority life, student government association, off-campus and commuter services, public safety, student conduct, wellness promotion. Each of those members will be appointed by university leadership. Some of those members may be students, so that there will be kind of more turnover, and therefore the university will just keep appointing as necessary. As to when this would kick off, it's the reorganization meeting in January 2022. Each member will serve a 3-year term, except for the initial terms that'll be staggered. So all of them don't come up at the same time, and there's continuity. As far as the governance is concerned, I mentioned it, but it would be a co-chairperson environment. 1 chair as elected by the borough members, and 1 chair as elected by the university members for that chair. Any vacancy will be appointed by Borough Council for borough members and university for university members. The rest is kind of questions.
Ms. Dorsey or Mr. Scott, anything?
So we actually, in a previous draft, it says, in addition to the members appointed by council, the committee shall include 10 representatives from Westchester University who shall be selected by the university. And previously it said shall represent various departments selected by the university. And then it was a shall. We eliminated shall. So that provides more flexibility as to the departments university sees is best fit to work with.
Yeah, Bill, it says selected by university administration such as the following. So from what I am understanding, it makes it seem like that's the recommendation from those areas, but not like set in stone.
No, it's not serving their purpose. I take it back to the mission there, Bill. The mission is to promote and increase in communication, collaboration between the Borough of Westchester, community leaders and residents, and Westchester University officials and students on issues that affect health, safety, and quality of life for the campus and the borough community. I wouldn't say those membership would be there to look after university interests, but rather to help achieve mission of the. Touche.
Yeah, hit the button on the mic.
So, reports, if I would put in there, based on an annual basis as requested by council.
I mean, we would anticipate that reports would be a lot more, but
Well,
you're right. It doesn't specify a minimum.
I can think of one example that came up about another committee or commission where time went by and we didn't get reports, and we didn't request them either. It just went on by. So
Keep in mind, because this is a committee of council, it's a sunshine committee, so it's open to the public. Will be meeting minutes each month that would function as well as a written report.
well, I think they should give a formal council as you person or by writing. I'm just saying, probably done at least once a year, and or request the council. I think that should go in there.
I like giving them some kind of a minimum, maybe even specific times of the year that coincide with the school year, like at this time of year, right before, like right when the school year starts or right before, maybe towards the end of the year.
I agree, but I was thinking that we left up to council members to implement that. It just only is done once a year. It can be done more. Council can say, we'd like a pre-semester report or something like that. But I mean, I don't think that needs to be in there. I think at the request of council or at least once a year.
You could do at least once a semester if you wanted to.
I like having the at the request though.
Huh?
I like having at the request of council in there. I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, it's.
Is that
we
implied?
could do that
I
anyway,
was
but
gonna
I
say,
think it ought to be in there. And Well, you want to do it every semester?
How about at a minimum every semester? If they
Okay.
choose to do more, they can do more.
At least once each semester, and we're at the request of council. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Well, I like it. Thank you.
Does anybody else here have any comments on this item, this ordinance? Yeah, Mr. Brown. Now, we wouldn't do that tonight, though. We'd wait until full council would do that, right? Okay.
Should there be a recommendation from this committee to recommend the draft ordinance with the suggestion, or with the edit of at least one formal report per semester and as requested by Borough Council?
I think you would do.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. So we'll make that update.
Sounds good. So yeah, okay. So there is no recommendation tonight. Okay, good. Gotcha. Cool. All right. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Scott. Oh, so you're saying add in. I'm confused. So adding also borough events as well, you're saying?
Suggest this.
On the university community. So, two-way street thing.
I guess we could. I think, it's pretty open-ended. Other functions or events that impact the residents of the borough, but you say impact the student population. That's what you're saying. But they're also borough residents, right? Well, if they're
Some of them
living
are
on
across
campus,
one.
they're.
Well, anyway,
Well, in South Campus.
my big concern is that I don't like it looking one-sided. It's not. That's why I said that. I don't think it's a deal breaker. I think absolutely. We'll probably talk about the Christmas parade and if there's any for university participation and activity beyond the band, which we always enjoy. But
Okay. Any other comments? All right, we will move on. Thank you, Mayor.
Just
yep.
one more.
Okay.
second. Yeah, thank you, first of all. Two, I just want to thank the first responders for this amazing heroic effort that we went through. We're very fortunate. It wasn't a lot worse. One, and two, Lisa, to your point, I've arranged for Ethan Healy to present about Narcan and use and some education about that next month. Next Wednesday voting session for about 10 or 15 minutes. There'll be handouts of that and sort of thing.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're moving on to item number 7, which is discuss safety protocols due to rise of COVID cases. Mr. Hudson.
Yes. I asked at the last Borough Council meeting for you to please institute a series of COVID protocols, including mandated masks. I included the hand washing stations, but that I don't think is any longer important. Asking businesses in town to reduce capacity inside, and also something that I did not bring up last time, but I think should be considered, is reinstating the limitations on housing, on how many people can be in a housing unit at a time. Just some numbers. I'm sure most of you know that the Delta variant is 1,000 times more infectious, 1,000 times higher viral load than what we were dealing with in the fall, around this time last year. And if you look at the numbers, I've been sharing them with Ms. Dorsey. I'm sure you're sick of getting the texts. And we are in the time period, we're similar to where we were in about almost a year ago, October. At that time, we had a whole suite of preventions, preventative measures in place. Right now, we have nothing. The students are coming in, which we're going to see. We know we're going to see our cases rise. And in just the 2 weeks since I stood before you, we've seen a 37.6% increase, and we've seen at least 8 deaths since I came and spoke in Chester County. Now, unfortunately, I don't have granular data just for Westchester because they stopped doing the daily dashboards at the county level, so I have to just go off of what information I can get from the state sources. But it does concern me when I come into this room and I only see 3 members of our government wearing masks. One of the IT guys, Jeff, Councilwoman Dorsey, and Councilman Nick Allen in the back. At the last meeting, Mr. Stefano, you said you don't want to wear a mask, but if you have to, you will. You are the body that decides whether or not we have to. So I would ask that you do something, anything, because, you know, people are already starting to die from this Delta surge. And I know it's politically unpopular to put in mask mandates, and I know it's not something we all want to do, but your job is to keep the people of Westchester safe. And right now, with the Delta variant ravaging our community, we have no policies in place. So I just ask you to do, at the very least, a mask mandate. It's what you have to do at school. I know you're a teacher. I think it's the lowest thing we could ask of people. And I honestly think if we wait any longer, it's just going to get worse. The best time to do a mask mandate was 2 weeks ago. The second best time to do a mask mandate is now. So please, I ask you to do your job and get some sort of preventative measure in place. Thank you.
Thoughts, committee members?
May I ask, what is the mask policy for Westchester? It's the state policy. What does the state require? Only that we mask indoors.
I don't know if there is a
No,
mandate at all.
There is no mask mandate in Pennsylvania right now. It was struck down by the state legislature. I'm sure you remember the emergency mandate that was put in, and then there was the ballot issue where they were able to remove the governor's emergency powers. So right now there are no mask mandates for everyday activities here in Westchester. If you go into Wawa, they ask you, corporations are doing it. Like Wawa won't let you in if you don't wear a mask. But right now, walking around town, and honestly, given what we're seeing with the rise in these additional variants, I think that it should be a universal mask mandate. Just ask people when you're in Westchester, wear a mask. It's not a high threshold. I know people get upset about it. I worked for the United States Census Bureau during the height of the pandemic. I walked up and down hills 8 to 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was able to do it. So, I mean, it's inconvenient, but if we do it now, hopefully we won't have to do it again next year.
Ms. Dorsey, your thoughts?
It's a tough one. We're being advised to wear a mask inside by the CDC, right? If you follow the science. If you're vaccinated, it's optional.
Are we checking the vaccination status of people, though?
No, we're not. We can't.
That's
what
what
I
I'm saying.
understand, right. So unfortunately, I don't agree with this, but we mandated wearing a seatbelt and no smoking inside, but right now we're, following the science, they're saying it's optional. I mean, you and I have made the choice to wear it, right? A couple other people have.
But I mean, I understand you, and look, you guys are going to do what you guys are going to do, but you have to recognize the science of the mask is I'm wearing a mask to keep you all safe, right? So I'm not using it to keep myself safe. So if you look at the statistics, the numbers in this room, what effect am I really having, right? When it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 30, 40 people? Because, I mean, Mrs. Stefano, you said it yourself, right? You're a reasonable man. You don't like wearing a mask, but if you had to, you would. What I'm saying is that science is saying we might have to, but only you can make that decision. Do you understand? Like, the governor isn't going to do another mask mandate considering the way that it all went around last time. He just doesn't have the power to do it. You do. You have the opportunity to do it. And I also, another thing was to move meetings virtual again, and which Mr. Perone said was not possible. But then I asked, how is the city of Philadelphia able to do it?
Allowed to do it. I thought this was a question and answer thing, not a speech time. First thing.
I don't need your comments. Thank you. What's the
No,
answer?
no,
What's the answer to my question, sir?
Excuse me?
What's the answer to my question, sir?
I know the answer. Don't interrogate me.
Don't interrupt
The
me when I'm
answer-
speaking, sir.
There's other people and there's other business to go on here tonight. I think council understands your request.
Okay, I'm waiting to hear your answer, sir.
Unless the governor puts an order in, we're required to have in-person meetings by state law.
Okay. And then how come Philadelphia is able to do it? I'm sorry, this is a very important issue to me. People are dying. I've known people who have died from COVID in this borough. So the fact that our government sits here fixing their cuff while we're talking about important
Okay,
issues.
Kyle, we've heard your point. You've made your point. I have no desire to enact any kind of mandate on that at all. So I don't know if the committee does. Ms. Dorsey made her point. Mr. Scott? For everyone or for unvaccinated people? Okay. That's 1 out of 3.
Is that it?
That's it. Anybody else like to comment on this item? Okay. We are moving on to item number 8, which is approving last month's public safety meeting minutes. I was not in attendance, so I cannot give my approval on this. I think, were you? No, you didn't sit in. So Mr. Scott, it would just be you. Are the minutes good for last month? Good, okay. And is there any other business? Ms. Edie? No, thank you. Thank you for, tell them thank you very much. Then. All right, so no other business. We are adjourned.